Good afternoon, Rotarians. Welcome to your Thursday Rotary Club meeting at the 104-year-old Rotary Club of Fayetteville. I'm your president, David Sager. And in the Rotary Club of Fayetteville, we say the four-way test of what we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Ray is leading in music.
God bless America.
God bless America. That I love, stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains, through the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. The Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Well, next week is the Christmas program, but it's really beginning to look a lot like Christmas. You probably don't remember all the words because it's a long song. I don't remember them either. And if it, I got to be careful. If you're a lady, what would you start on? What note would you start on? Okay, how about that key? It's beginning to come like Christmas. Everywhere you go, take a look at the 5 and 10. You're listening once again with candy canes and children. Hello, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store, but the prettiest sight you'll see is the holly that will be on your own front door. A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is a wish to Benny and Ben. Janice and Jen. Can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Everywhere you go, there's a tree in the Grand Hotel, one in the park as well. The sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start, and the thing that will make them ring is the carol that you sing in your heart. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store, but the prettiest sight you see is the holly that will be your own. This'll be good job. Next week, real quick.
Love those harmonies. All right. Sloan is standing in for Harrison. Harrison had to leave out of town. Where did he go anyway? He just leaves. Okay.
Hopefully we have lots more guests visiting Rotarians next week for the Christmas program. We have no members with guests this week. However, Wade is back. Hi, Wade. I don't have jokes. Sorry. For reflection, please pray in your faith and tradition as I pray. Heavenly Father, we gather here today with grateful hearts. We thank you for the gift of fellowship, for the opportunity to serve, and for the blessings that surround us each day. May our gratitude inspire us to act with kindness, integrity, and compassion. Guide our work so that it brings hope and healing to others. Amen.
Thanks, Sloan. Okay, a reminder that our butt cups for December are going to M&N Augustine Foundation. If you want a link to that, you can take your phone and put it in camera mode. Oh, you know how that works. All right. Announcements. Let's do announcements at this time. Go ahead.
So, hi, I'm Shannon McNeil with the Fayetteville Chamber, and late last month, a lot of you guys know, we honored Judge John Reed. He's not here today, with our West Warren Golden Needs Award. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, they would like me to film it, we have a copy. And the library did film the whole presentation, so if you'd like to watch, Judge Reed's hilarious acceptance speech. I mean, we always prepared that link, and I'll send it to David, maybe you can put it in the newsletter for next.
Do that.
Right there.
Yeah.
Christine.
Is meeting December 16th, 6 o'clock at the Chamber of Commerce, and we will hear from the Chamber Director, Jennifer Irwin, and her economic developer, which Mark Goodman. They are going to provide drinks and snacks, and we'd love to have some of you all there. So good time to meet some of the nightclub members, and also if you need a makeup or just want to hear what's going on with the chamber.
Thank you. Harrison wanted to put out there, and in this I'll get to you in a second, Larry. He put it in the newsletter. By the way, Harrison's doing a new formatted newsletter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's applaud Harrison for the newsletter. It looks good. You have to forgive his typos and his bad dates, but we'll figure it out. But he wants to start a conversation about what we're going to do for our 105th celebration. This is coming up in March, which will be here tomorrow. So we want to do something fun where we get away from the lunch environment and we meet after hours or on a weekend and have some cake. And I'm just throwing out ideas, but we want to form up those ideas and have a good time for that significant birthday. Larry.
President, yes, our next meeting is our Christmas music program. And the music committee will meet right here, right after this meeting. So two other things. Participate. If you have a musical talent or you're a thespian, you can play something and you want to participate, come over to this table at 1 o'clock or have your friends call. Okay.
You on the schedule?
Put you on schedule. If you're going to come next week, and everybody will come and they will bring their special someone, bring a guest, and you might even consider wearing some Christmas. So an ugly shirt, a little hat. Let's look Christmassy. What do you think, Howard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch out for the ill.
And, I guess that's about all I had. Just make sure that you come and we'll enjoy it. Have a good program next week.
Thank you, Larry. And along with that, we've in years past had a committee or a group of a few people that have come together and ahead of time to plan decorations, table decorations and room decorations. And I don't know who that is. Is there anybody in the room that has done that before that can?
Health committee that we decorated for. Jimmy, is there anyone else anything else we decorated?
No. Okay. Well,
Decorate first. So, no, you did that club, and we did that. Oh, you did? Service about sound. I know, but for Christmas. Oh.
for the Christmas program. Yeah.
Right, tree and lights.
Well, okay. If you want to talk about that between this week and next, I think that'd be nice if we could put something together. Yeah. Okay. Just bring them. Okay.
Harrison usually updates based on how many people he's gonna bring. And if you're gonna bring a lot, please let Harrison know.
Yeah. Let's do it that way. And it doesn't hurt to let Harrison or I know, and we'll forward that along to our caterer, Jordan. Okay. Oh, Jimmy, I might ask and put you on the spot. We did Salvation Army bell ringing Saturday. How would you say that went? It was a beautiful day. Thank you. It was there were just hour slots and that hour just went by like that. And it was a good time. And people were so generous. I saw $20 bills being shoved in there and big bills, big success. I know they greatly appreciate what we do to help out there. Mark your calendars, April 18th and 19th next year is our Battle for the Paddle pickleball tournament. Do we have the location nailed down for that yet? It is going to be at FAC. Okay, so we're bringing it to Fayetteville. Okay, well, very good. All right, any other announcements before I move forward? I'm going to take this time. Yep, I've got just a few minutes. I would like to do 2 Paul Harris Fellow recognitions at this time. And this would be a Paul Harris Fellow +6 and a +7. Lewis, would you bring those envelopes up here, please? Is Judge Smith in the room? No. Okay. Well, we'll do him another time. This one is a Paul Harris Fellow +7. The lapel pin has 2 red stones. And if this person would stand to be recognized, and I'll meet you in the middle with your pin, Priscilla Cumpy. All right. Okay, and Paul Harris Fellow +6. This is a Paul Harris Fellow lapel pin with 1 red stone for Miss Jimmy Beecham. Right. All right, at this time, David Beecham, would you introduce our speaker today?
I don't get up here very often. That's why you guys are clapping. It's my pleasure and honor, really, to introduce a fellow I've known for, at least 3 years and feel like I've kind of gotten to know him pretty well. I lay on a table while he works on my shoulder. And his name is Andy Glidewell. He is the Director of Rehabilitation and Training, Recovery and Move, better known as TRM. And I have had my right shoulder done and my left shoulder done by Dr. Wesley Cox. And he is connected right there next door to him. And so I have been going in that building over and over again, week in and week out. And you get to know the techs, you get to know Andy, and it's just a great experience. And so anyway, he has an impressive background. He earned his bachelor's and his doctorate from Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. He has a passion for sports and orthopedic care, and his wife, Brittany, and him took a leap in 2014 to move to Northwest Arkansas to join Dr. Cox in his practice. And since then, they've had 3 boys. I think one of them is getting close to their first birthday. The next one, maybe the 3rd birthday. And the one after that's maybe the 6th birthday. And so anyway, he began a 1 provider operation, mastering medical documentation from scratch, and has exploded into a powerhouse team of really 13 rehab specialists across 2 clinics located in Northwest Arkansas, Fayetteville and Bentonville now. He has an approach that has been driven by growth. He's redefined how patients recover and helped them perform at their peak. And over the past decade, he's earned the awards of Orthopedic Clinic Specialist certification, placing him among the most elite specialized physical therapists in Arkansas. He's represented the United States as well as Arkansas in track and field medical teams, providing coverage at international events in Qatar, Poland, and Japan. And I know he's been more places than that because he's told me. Anyway, he's an interesting fellow, has incredible knowledge on a variety of topics. I lay there and we talk about all kinds of subjects. And it's always more entertaining to lay there and talk than it is to actually do the rehab. I mean, he's just knowledgeable in a lot of different areas. And so anyway, I think he represents a different approach in medicine, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's not about getting you in and out. It's giving you the quality of care that you really need. So anyway, it's my pleasure to introduce Andy Gladwell.
Hey everybody, how are y'all? See if I can't finagle this.
Oh, I'll mention one other thing. I forgot to introduce Ashlyn Thompson, who is his guest and didn't get noticed. Ashlyn worked as a tech when I got this shoulder done. And now with this shoulder, she's gone from being a tech to now her internship, which she finishes up tomorrow, and then moves to Little Rock to work in clinic now.
I know Ashlyn loved that, right? So thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you everybody for inviting me out. I know that the weeks get a little bit stressful right here before Christmas and schedules get packed, but thank you so much for having me out. It means a lot. Like Mr. Beecham was saying, my name is Andy, and I'd love to take 15 minutes or so to talk a little bit about a topic I hear come up a lot over the last 10 years. I think it has some different shapes and it's come at me a few different ways over the last 10 years. And that's a term that's been growing, and that's the term longevity. Longevity is a term I didn't grow up hearing that. I grew up in a really humble, if you will, small town in Newport, Arkansas. I grew up, we should already be done with harvest, but I grew up in, 2 feet of water and rice fields and a shovel. And like a lot of small towns in Arkansas, we were very comfortable with rice fields. We were very comfortable with duck hunting. And I learned how to master a duck call at a young age because that's what Dad told me I needed to do. Then all of a sudden, everybody goes to church where I'm from. There's a church on every corner. And sports ruled the land. And I've grown to appreciate it over the years, but every Friday at night, there was no question. You knew where everybody was at. We were down there at the high school football game, or we were down there watching the basketball team. And so I grew up in that kind of environment. So I never heard longevity. I went to school at Arkansas State, still never heard the term. I was able to get my bachelor's and my doctorate there. Felt like I wasn't done yet, and I felt like I needed a little bit more student debt. So I went ahead and kept doing that and got my board specialization. And that's before me and my wife took, like Mr. Beecham said, a huge leap of faith. I'm not from Northwest Arkansas. I'm from Northeast Arkansas. So you grew up and the mentality was, don't forget where you came from, Andy. And then when I told my friends, I'm like, hey, me and my wife are going to take a gamble. We're going to go to Northwest Arkansas. Everybody's like, oh, Andy, you sold out on us. And so, but man, we really did. I still remember, I came, I was invited by Dr. Wesley Cox. He said, come over here. It was the weirdest interview I'd ever been on in my life. I'd been on interviews and it was strengths and it was weaknesses and it was 401ks and it was productivity numbers. And my wife and I came, we came to Fayetteville. I don't have family here. I just came. He said, why don't you meet me and my wife and we'll go to Sassafras. We never talked about money. We never talked about 401ks. We never talked about how many hours a week I should work. We talked about dreams, passions, and vision, and what I wanted out of life. What did me and my wife, what kind of legacy were we wanting to start? And could that happen in Northwest Arkansas? We get done with the interview and he goes, go pray about it. There's no 2-week deadline. Just go pray about it. And if this is where the Lord wants you to be, then all that other stuff will figure itself out. So we're leaving the hill and we top the hill right there on South Fayetteville. And I look at my wife and I was like, I don't know what to do with that. I know Dad's going to ask like, well, what was the details of the job, Andy? Man, I don't know. What do you mean, Andy? You don't know how much you're going to get paid? No, but I think I want to go. Andy, I don't know if that's going to be the right decision. You have all this structure in Chattanooga. You have all this systems here in Jonesboro, and you don't even know how much you're going to put in a 401k. I go, no, but I don't know if I have ever felt conviction, but I felt something. My wife, we were leaving and she goes, I think we're going to take a huge gamble and we might get all the way over here and we completely have been hoodwinked. Kind of want to live life with people like that. So that was the foundation of where we started. We've been here for over a decade now and it's been nothing but great. This is where our roots are, this is where kids are at. And being probably 3 years after we had lived here, I was sitting at Thanksgiving. Me and my wife, she's from Northeast Arkansas as well. And I remember at Thanksgiving, looking at my wife and going, man, I'm ready to go home. But my heart felt like I was ready to top that hill again and see the Razorback logo. I was ready to come back home. So joined UAMS in 2020. Dr. Cox and I went with UAMS in 2020. And, over that, I think that if you start with a really good foundation like the one he set with me, I think growth happens. Nike sent out a memo, and sometimes they resend this memo out. One of the very first memos that Nike ever gave to its employees. And one of it's a bullet point of a few things, but one of the things says if you just do the right thing, the money damn near comes automatic. And I think that's great. And I think that's what we've done. We've exploded into 13 rehab providers. We've now opened up a second clinic in Bentonville, and Dr. Cox and I get a chance to work on the new Springdale Surgical Center that is, you guys might see over across from Children's and the Naturals, that are all the little construction. So we've been working on that for a while. So thanks for y'all's patience with that. But over the last 10 years, this word longevity has come up, and it's kept coming up. And I've seen it in a lot of areas. I'll tell you one of the first times I remember it coming up, I was in Nassau, Bahamas. I was with USA Track and Field, and I was representing America. Track meet goes amazing. I'm used to rice water, not Bahama water. So I was loving it. And so the event ends, and we're all sitting in a hotel room, and all the USA guys from back in, 2014. So Wallace Spearman and Tyson Gay and some of these local pros. We're sitting in a hotel, we're watching the Heat play the Spurs in the NBA Finals. Boom, door blasts open. Here walks Usain Bolt, and he's mad as all get out. And he's had a rough year, an ache, a sprain, and man, they're just going back at it. And I'm sitting here trying to watch the game, but like, how often do you get a chance to hear Usain Bolt complain to Tyson Gay and Wallace Spearman? And the theme was not, I want to run longer. A sprinter doesn't have just a very long lifespan. They were not arguing to run longer. They were wanting to run at their peak for the years that they were given. So that was probably the first time I was introduced to longevity. Not a length. They didn't want to lengthen their running career, but they wanted to optimize the years that they had. And Usain was mad because he was like, I'm going to have to shut the year down because the dadgum Achilles here or a knee there or a hip here. So like, that was the first time I was introduced. Come back, and I started hearing this thing come off with post-op patients. How do I optimize the results after a surgery? How do people start to become curious? How do they prevent disability later in life? But really, it was the same thing, optimization over time. And I know if you look at the data right now, our age expectancy for the last 20 years has gone up. I think last year it went down for the first time in 20 years. But for the most part, it's gone up. But that's not what I've heard. I've not heard people wanting to make it to 80. I've heard people like, yeah, I want to be able to jump and run and do what I want to at 76. If I only got 77 years, I want the most. I don't want to be, sent out to pasture at 50 and not be able to do nothing at 50 for the last 20. So I heard that a lot from this shifting from length to optimization. And so I think probably over the last 5 to 6 years, there's starting to become a national buzz around it. Podcast and Dr. Peter Attia is probably one that I respect. I've read his book, his New York Times bestseller. I think it's great. It's called Outlive. He does a podcast, and he's one of a lot of physicians now that are in a bubble that's called longevity bubble. I mean, that's what they do. And so if you read the book, I don't think any of it's just absolutely revolutionary in the sense, but he does talk of things about routine blood work. He talks about things maybe considering a full body MRI every now and again. He talks about not just exercise and diet, but the timing of exercise, the frequency. He really stresses community engagement. Whether it be Rotary Club, your local church, the 4-H, local engagement's huge. Chronic stresses affect and sleep. I don't think this is a lot of new news to people in here, but I do want to speak a little bit about maybe my role or my piece to this puzzle as a physical therapist. Are there things that I've picked up over time that the research might be saying, Andy, as a physical therapist, how do you contribute to this? What is it things that you look at? And so for a short amount of time, we can talk about 3 things. There's several that you can look at, but 3 of the ones that I feel like we routinely come to: grip strength, we do a wall squat for time, and a high plank hold. There's several of them. I think you take Mr. Usain Bolt, he could probably sit on that wall for 3 years. So like there were other ones that we were doing for Usain, but grip strength, these are the 3 I'd like to talk to you guys about today. And I don't want you all to think that I am saying that these are a direct cause of death. They're not. They're just more of an idea from my perspective of systemic robustness. And the literature is very consistent about them being strong biomarkers for my overall health. And so Bohannon in 2021 came up with this paper, and I love the quote he had. He goes, don't just use it in isolation, your grip strength. You should use grip strength and compare that to some leg stuff. Let's do some lower extremity stuff and see how the two go with one another. Because then you can start to find a direct association to sarcopenia, falls, cardiovascular outcomes. And grip strength is one that we use a lot. And I think the literature has also shown that apparently it has a direct correlation to Olympic medals. So I thought that was interesting that they looked at all the countries. They started to look at grip strength. And they said the better the grip strength on the country, the more medals they're probably going to have. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So grip strength is a big one. So it's a very big one that kind of has a representation of our overall health. And you guys have seen charts like this. I'll be honest with you, I was tested over them. I have to memorize them, and not really helpful, if I'm honest with you. I don't know what 120 pounds of grip strength is. Like, when I try to explain it to people. So what we did today is I wanted you guys to kind of have a little bit of a takeaway. We've all bought one of these at Walmart. So what I want to do is, can we break this sometime busy information into something that's a little bit more helpful? And we know that our functional endurance for our grip is typically about 55% of that grip. So if we can think about our really big laundry detergent that we pick at Walmart. I'm not talking about the small one that gets you about 2 loads. I'm talking about the big one. And what I did is I wanted to take those normative values and can we bring that over to a big Tide dishwashing detergent? And if you were to grab that, whether it be at your laundry room this evening, or if you find yourself at the aisles of Walmart and you pick you one up, if you look at this, anybody from 60 to 70, if you're a male, you should be able to hold that for a minute without dropping it. And if you're a female, you should be able to hold that for 45 seconds without dropping it. And I don't want you guys to, again, it's not about gym strength. This is not about, if I can hold a Tide dishwashing detergent, I can get under 225-pound bench press and go at it again. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about daily life strength. Because if you can't, that's when we start to look at this having a higher risk of falls, mobility loss, and early mortality. So I think this makes sense to me. Again, I was a simple guy on the end of a shovel my whole life. So I like these things that I can relate to every single day. So grip strength is something that we measure often. Early on in my career, I don't know if anybody in here other than Mr. Beecham has had shoulder problems or shoulder surgeries. But, Dr. Cox came over and he goes, hey, Andy, they're going to be in a sling for a little bit. If anybody's ever had a shoulder surgery, typically you get to hang out in a sling for a little bit. Now, I am not supposed to stress those muscles in your shoulder for a said period of time, typically while you're in that sling. But then Mr. Insurance Man comes in and goes, well, Andy, you need to prove that your shoulder patient has weakness. How do I do that if Dr. Cox will get mad at me if I stress the tendons in the shoulder he just repaired? Most of our patients that come in, one of the first indicators we start looking at is grip strength. And typically what and double check me if I'm wrong. Y'all come find Ashlyn at the end of this to double check, make sure I'm not blowing smoke. But typically a dominant hand should be 10% stronger than your non-dominant hand. And if you've just had a shoulder surgery, you start seeing that dip a little bit. And that's the first indicator for me to go, hey, Dr. Cox, the shoulder's weak. But not only is the shoulder weak, we might have just some overall health that we might want to focus on while we're doing the shoulder. So grip strength is a big one that we use often at our practice. But again, just like the research was showing, we like to coordinate that with some lower extremity, some legs. Now, one of them is a wall sit for time. This is something as simple. Again, we can do this in our living rooms. Find you a wall, put your back against it, feet needs to be about hip distance apart. You need to come down to parallel and just see how long you can hold that. There's other ones that I can think about is a sit to stand test. They'll have about an 18-inch, whether it be a bench or a box, and they'll measure how many times not using your hands, but how many times can you stand up and sit down without using your hands. And those data usually correlates that. So if it's a sit to stand or if it's a wall sit, the theme is just making sure that we get some sort of lower extremity result with that. And 60 seconds is a long time to sit on a wall parallel. You'll feel it. So this is some of the normative data for that we look at. And we always compare this, or we put this in conjunction with our grip strength. So we have a grip strength that we look at. We can do that something tonight. Maybe as a break from putting up your Christmas tree, we can do a wall sit for time. And then the last one would be a high plank hold. Now, the gentleman that we have was doing this. We had him on his elbows. However, the position that we would look at if I was looking for more physical longevity is in a high push-up position. So don't feel like you have to get down on your elbows to do this. But, tonight in the morning while you're having a cup of coffee, see how long you can hold a high push-up position. Minute and a half, you'll be surprised how slowly that goes when you're in that position again too. I'm bound by HIPAA, but we had a Fortune 500 businessman saw this data with me one time. He goes, get down here and do it with me. And I go, okay, let's do it. We made it 30 seconds. He got on his knee and he looked at me. He's like, that was 2 minutes. I swear it was. And I was like, no, it's not. So, I think you'd be surprised at how long a minute and a half in a push-up position can be. But here's some of the normative data that you can use to kind of gauge yourself on where this is. And typically it's an average of the three that I look like. But if you find yourself asking, well, hold on now, Andy, I can't hold a Tide dishwashing detergent that long, right? This plank really is that hard. Or, man, I got to 30 seconds, and if I didn't come off that wall, I was going to have to sit on the ground. If you ask yourself that, and if you notice that, the question I get a lot is, well, what do I do about it, Andy? I think the literature is pretty consistent that if you find you a stress ball and you're sitting on the couch with a stress ball and you're going to town on your hand, or it's in the glove compartment of your truck, that's not going to cut it. And they've done studies on that, because that's what I would have done. I would just put a stress ball in my truck, and I would have done that between work and home. And that's not what we're seeing gets the benefits of the longevity talk. And what you typically see, though, is rows, kettlebell or suitcase walks, kettlebell presses, deadlifts, box squats. These are some things that you start to see come up in the literature as things that they advocate for you doing. And these are pictures that we've had at our clinic. So these are real patients doing these. And so you see all of these being types of interventions we can do for that. My personal suggestion is to start light and often. However, if I was in a room with my cohort, typically we get in a healthy debate over progressions. I don't think you should stay light and often. Like a lot of therapists get a little bit nervous, especially when you start working with certain populations. They want to keep you on a yellow TheraBand for the rest of your life. And look, nothing against a yellow TheraBand, but if I'm trying to build muscle and I got 3 weeks till spring break, that yellow TheraBand ain't gonna cut it. So I do think there should be an emphasis on progression, but I like to start light and often. I'd much rather do that than heavy and seldom. And I think that you'll see that kind of consistent in the literature. But if you guys need anything else, if this sparks questions, concerns, or if this is something that you guys want more information about, that's my personal email that comes to my cell phone. If you guys want my work email, you're more than welcome to have that too. But this one comes to my cell phone. So if you guys need me weekends, evenings, I'm more likely to answer that one. But man, I appreciate you guys having me out. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas.
Yes. Number one, do you ever do any tests that measure, like Dr. Attia, like VO2? And then what do you recommend? Because I know he talks about not necessarily how to live longer, but the best life during the last years of your life.
Yeah. VO2 is a hard test. I don't know if you've ever done one. They put you on a treadmill. They put this mask on you that measures how much you breathe out, how much you breathe in. And that treadmill every so often gets taller and taller and taller until you just tap out. And I've done it myself, and I felt like I was pulling so much air, and the mask was just collapsing on me. There's some really correct. VO2 max is the gold standard. It is the one that we do. It can be pretty intense for some patients. There are some good tests that we'll do at our clinic that have good conversions to a VO2 max prediction. One of them is a 6-minute walk test. You get on a treadmill. Our treadmill has, and a lot of treadmills have it. They'll measure your beats per minute, right? And what you'll do is you'll see how far can I go in 6 minutes? How hard is this 0 to 10? And how high did my heart rate get? If I can track those measurements, there's a nice little conversion that I can do to give me a range of, I can predict you're going to be within this range of a VO2 max. Typically, you're a lot more thankful than me hooking you up to a lot of wires and just having you just go straight uphill. But VO2 max is important, and that's a huge test that we look for cardiovascular strength. At our clinic, a lot of times, instead of going ahead and getting the exercise scientists down and coordinating that, we'll use the 6-minute walk test. And let's say you're either more interested, or if some of the athletes come in, then we'll do that first test, and we'll schedule them for a true, it's called a Bruce protocol is what the VO2 max thing that they'll do. But we'll do that. But sometimes we'll just use the conversion to get them in that. But I love that. That's one of the tests and of the 3 that we'll look at is a 6-minute walk test. So yeah, I think that's great.
Y'all do primary planks every day, and something with our legs, lower body. I mean, and for grip. I mean, it's
Yeah. I gave you a few of the examples. I love heavy suitcase carries with a kettlebell. A lot of people get mad, even if you don't have a kettlebell. Sometimes you'll take a dumbbell and you'll flip it vertical, and you're forced to grip the top of the dumbbell, and people don't like that. So I love heavy suitcase walks for that. I like you'll see a lot of times right now what's called a HIIT workout. It stands for high intensity interval training. And if I look at your heart rate on a scale, it jumps it up and then I drop your heart rate back down. So I'll do something pretty intense. A sled push might be one. Sled pushes, you'll be surprised that your heart rate goes right to your mouth. And then what I want to do is I want to track how quickly will your heart rate come back down. So on a graph, it goes up and comes down, goes up and comes down, it goes up and come down. So if you were to come, we love sled pushes. I'm measuring how quickly your heart rate will come down. And that's one thing that we're measuring for intensity. You would then grab a kettlebell and you would walk until your hands can't hold it again. We would grab, they make them, it started in the military, but TRX, there are these yellow straps. You go to FAC and you see the straps. Sometimes they're red. Drew Brees, he tore his rotator cuff many years ago. And his whole rehab was on a TRX band. That's all he did for rotator cuff rehab, and they just blew up after that. I mean, Drew Brees can get his shoulder back on these straps, and the military, they can do it for their workouts. It's got to be good for everybody. But I love it because it's unstable. So not only is it working a lot of our core, it works our balance. I don't want to say the big, long, nerdy word is proprioception, but like our body's sense of space. So I'm grabbing a hold of those TRXs, and I'm doing rows. These are things that how I would program that on any given patient that comes in. That was a really good question. Yes, sir.
Andy, all of y'all's work post-operative, or do y'all do preventative and intervention work?
Yes, sir. The answer to that is yes, sir. If you have a surgery, we're trying to think. I hate absolute terms, but we're good with a lot of them. I hate to say all of them, because then as soon as you say all of them, you get something you've never seen before. But we're good with a lot of post-operative care. But we see people every single day. 11 o'clock, we had 2 Olympic athletes fly in from out of state to see us, and they're not injured. Their season's about getting ready to get back to going, and they want to go. We need to measure today. You need to put this together when we fly out, and they'll give it to their team. And I think this lady's from San Diego. We'll give it to our team in San Diego, and then they're going to kind of put together something based on what you measure. So whether it's be high-end athletic performance to post-op to preventative care, we've developed some really nice protocol, and we've grown a team ready for that. I don't like the current state of medicine, if I'm honest with you. I think Dr. Peter Attia, I think Miss Alice Walton, I think they're on to something special, and I see something on the horizon. Call me hopefully optimistic, but that's kind of the team I'm riding with. So I think that's the next wave. So absolutely, we got to get comfortable with all of that. Yes, sir.
I had C5-6 fusion and then went to PT.
Yes, sir.
And the PT people were sure. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Love them. They do a good job.
Yeah, they do. Dr. Kat Samuel was my tech or my person.
Yes, sir.
And she did all kinds of neat things, and I can tell you what y'all do works.
Thank you.
Now, I had to stop about 3 weeks ago. And I've been kind of lazy. Now, what would you recommend to be the how many days a week? And I know what the exercises are because I got them on my iPad, right? So I know what I'm supposed to do. Nobody ever told me how often I was supposed to. But I'd like to hear what you have.
I love it. You know, it's interesting there. Like they gave you all this schooling, give you all this debt, and you gotta. That's what I teach, right? So Ashlyn's been hanging out with me for months, and what I teach is it depends on your goal. For instance, if the goal was Usain Bolt is going to sprint, he doesn't go top end 7 days a week. He's redlining RPMs when he goes out there. So I would tell him, we might want to sprint 2 to 3 days a week. We'll supplement that on accessory days. If you and I wanted to become bodybuilders and we want to grow muscles absolutely as big as we can, then that might be 3 to 5 times a week. If we were going to become cross-country runners, or we were going to run the hog eye, I might run 5 to 6 days a week if I was wanting to build my slow twitch fibers or my endurance fibers. So I think it comes back to the goals. If usually C5, C6, there's usually going to be some neck restrictions. You're probably going to have some weakness in your grip, your arms. So I'm only speaking in generality. I love for muscles to get bigger. Muscles that get big are easy to take on what life has to give you without breaking down. And there's some really good, interesting research that has come out in the last 2 years where the bigger the muscle doesn't always mean that you will lose your mobility, right? So if I was trying to grow muscles, whether it be in your triceps, your biceps, your forearms, or your traps in your neck, I think it's pretty consistent to 4 to 5 times a week is how often you should be doing those. 3 to maintain the gains that you've gotten at circ. If you go less than 3, you're probably going in reverse. So 3 minimum, 4 to 5 if you want to keep the car pushing down the road. I heard that. 7 days a week then.
What is your opinion on rebounding? And do you think that's good? And what type of progression should someone see on that? I tried that and it was much more difficult than I thought it would be. Seems pretty simple. What are your thoughts on that?
So I get a chance to work with UAMS. We get a chance right now, it's basketball season. So we work a lot with the basketball guys that are coming in right now. And we had a really good team, y'all. Help direct me. When you say rebounding, my head goes to Brazil grabbing something off the glass. So when you say rebounding, mini trampolines. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, I love that. I think it's great. It is harder than people anticipate that to be. It will not grow muscle. So the muscle will not get bigger. However, proprioception, your body's awareness in space gets way better. There are these things in your joints, forgive me all, but they're called like mechanoreceptors, which are these things in your joints that helps you realize where you're at in space. So if I was getting up off of a really low seat, the mechanoreceptors in our knees help me kind of feel how I need to push pressure through the ground to be able to stand up. What we know with like something like rebounding with the trampolines, this stretch cycle where you have to decel through to come right back up improves joint mechanoreceptors, both in the hip, the ankle, and the knee. It creates this rigidity around them that helps with stability. So I think it's great. I don't think that's a successful supplement for weights, but I also think that it's beautiful for decreasing falls, for starting to feel my feet under me again. You see a lot of us do that for skiers and things like that have had like a knee surgery or an ankle surgery. It's like my knee feels odd. I do a squat and I feel like I'm going way against my other knee. I'm going completely the other way, and I need to feel both knees evenly. Things like rebounding, we have several in our clinic, and that's exactly what we do that. I like to superset, if I'm honest with you. So I might do something like a goblet squat, where I might do a really slow dumbbell or a kettlebell squat to a box, super slow, really slow. And in your head, you're trying to tell yourself, what am I feeling a quarter of the way down, half the way down? What muscles am I feeling when I come back up? I might do 8 reps of that, 30 seconds on the rebound, then go take your break. 8 more reps, 30 more seconds on the rebound. I like to pair those two. But yeah, I love rebounding. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So come right up here. Now, what this club does that's special is we want to honor our speakers and say thank you by giving you something to put on your desk or on the credenza behind your desk. So you came and spoke to the Rotary Club of Fayetteville. It's a rampaging razorback on a rotary wheel, a hog and a cog.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Merry Christmas.
All right. And with that, we're adjourned. Oh, music committee over here.